your way up the career ladder, and the education that goes with it is going to be of value to you no matter what you do later in your career. Well, at this point, I am going to pass it off to Robert Raiola, and he tweets at SportsTaxman. Robert.
Thank you so much, and I just wanted to reach out and thank all the students for taking time out of their very busy schedules between going to school, working, and doing homework and all that other fun stuff, for sitting here and listening to us, and appreciate Jeff and for having us, and it's an honor to be on the same panel as Sylvia, a renowned expert in the state and local tax area, who also has picked up the social media. I see a lot lately and has done a tremendous job with that. And of course, you guys may not know, but Rita Keller is a legend in the accounting and marketing industry. And I was fortunate enough to be a subject of one of her blogs a month ago on, I think it was on Why Accountants Sometimes Are Not Boring, but it was fun to be on that. One thing I will tell you guys in my speaking is I get up every day and I go to work, and I absolutely love what I do. Okay, I certainly don't work a 9-to-5 job, especially not now, but I encourage all of you, whether you stay with the accounting industry, and we hope that you do. It's a very fertile area right now, but I encourage all of you to find your passion. There was a very famous gentleman by the name of Jim Valvano. He was a basketball coach, and he's really, really famous. He unfortunately passed away at a young age, but you know, he said every day, you know, you got to be happy, you got to be happy, you got to be moved to cry, and you got to think. And one thing that he always said is to believe. And I want all of you to believe in yourself. And there will be mentors out there, the people of like Rita Keller, like Sylvia, like Jeff, you know, all these different people that can and will help you. All you have to do is ask for it. But I am fortunate enough and blessed enough to be working in the sports and entertainment area. I run the sports and entertainment practice for a mid-sized firm here in New Jersey. In my late 40s, I spent 20 years in the business. I went to Pace University in New York City. I'm a member of the New Jersey Society of CPAs, the AICPA. I was fortunate enough to write a book a while back, Winning Tax Strategies for Athletes and Entertainers. You know, so that's some of the things that I've done. Jeff, if you can advance the slide, please. Some of the other things that I do, you know, so what do I do? Actually, we'll talk about accounting being a hot career. There's a lot of jobs out there, you know, and I would encourage a lot of you to if you get into the business, number one, to interview with a lot of different firms if you're able to. Consider small, consider large. And the other thing that's obviously extremely, extremely important, and I know Jeff will talk about this other times during the CollegeFrog presentation, is to go get the exam out of the way. The sooner you can get the exam out of the way, because the first question everybody asks you, oh, you're an accountant, but you a CPA. If you're not a CPA, there's a moment of silence. But you have to go get the exam out of the way. And then after that, you know, try to be a generalist at the beginning, and then maybe you can find something that you really enjoy doing. I mean, I think more and more firms, as people go along, the thing that I think we try to separate ourselves from other firms is to have, you know, somebody who's a state and local specialist like Sylvia, or to have a renowned blogger and marketing person, you know, like Rita, or to have somebody who does a lot of work in the sports and entertainment area that you can't find in every firm. So there's definitely, the laws are always changing, and there's a lot of things that you can get involved with and learn, and you have to put the effort in. Can you advance the slide, please, Jeff? Okay, so some of the things that I do on a day-to-day basis, our sports group is really, really involved with looking at the needs of high net worth individuals in the sports and entertainment areas. We provide them help in a lot of different things like multi-state transactions, international transactions, cross-border transactions, and often help them in making life management skills. I'm sure a lot of you have heard recently of the number of athletes, and every day it's another one. Last week I was doing an article for Accounting Web on Terrell Owens going broke. In the famous words of a famous college basketball coach, John Wooden, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. You have to have a plan in place. We try to help these guys with doing that. And I look at myself, as to use a slang sports term, as really like a financial quarterback, overseeing the day-to-day activities to make sure that things are move forward in an orderly fashion. But constantly asked, when players play in different states, how does that affect them, or how do players get paid? And one of the things that I've had fun with, and I'll get to it in a little bit is about Twitter, but one of the things I tweeted out when President Obama was reelected, the night that he was getting reelected, I said, if he is reelected, he will earn $400,000 a year. Kobe Bryant makes $339,000 per game. So sometimes people like to see those unusual comparisons, and I have fun with that. I'll get into Twitter in a second. But we also work with people. I don't do it myself, but there's people that we work with on estate and trust planning and all the different things like that. A lot of times the athletes are looked at by the IRS for having a lot of employee business expenses, and we have to represent them in front of audits, with the different state or federal authorities. Jeff, can you advance the slide, please?
You bet.
Okay, the power of social media. So as I mentioned to you, I'm in my late 40s and have 3 children, one of which is a college student, one is a junior in high school, and the other's in 8th grade. So about 2 years ago, I didn't even know what Twitter was, and the managing partner at our firm said, come on, Robert, only twits, don't tweet. And I didn't know what that meant, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. So what I did is I started out the same place. Everybody on this phone call, including all the students, and Jeff and Rita and Sylvia started out with no followers, no big deal. And you start to play with it a little bit. I got some followers here and there. And then I really began to put some time in and try to do some unusual things. I caught my first real break when I had gotten to a couple thousand followers, and NPR Radio came to my house and did an interview, and you can probably find it on our website or on NPR.com. They came to my house, and I said, well, I don't really know much about NPR except they have 3 million listeners a week, and I have a rather pronounced New York accent, but in my late 40s, it is what it is. It's not going to change. And we had fun with it. We talked about a couple different things. We talked about what happens when Americans play in Canada or vice versa, and that really began to take off. And now, I'm always tweeting. Yesterday I was tweeting out about the coach of Florida Gulf Central, the team in Florida that's won 2 games in the tournament. He makes $157,000 a year. The coach of the Florida Gators, who they're going to match up with the next round, he makes he coached this year for $110,000 a game. So a little bit different there. It's really been fun. It's led to a lot of interesting things. It was an honor to be mentioned in a feature article by Rita on a blog, again, on what I do. So that was tremendous, and it's really led to a lot of different things. I was on NBC Sports Radio last night, although a little late, but maybe not for college students, at 11 o'clock Eastern. I was featured on about 10 minutes on sports radio, talking about different things that go on in the tournament or the NFL, related to tax and money and whatnot. So that was a lot of fun. I've picked up a lot of new business from being on Twitter, and it's really what I'm trying to show people is that I have a niche. And I make mistakes here once in a while, but I'm probably on the radio 5-6 times a month on different radio stations. Nothing really big, but hopefully the next time I do one of these in the fall, I will be featured in a big book that's coming out by one of the big prominent personalities in the sports world that I got, again, through social media, and that happened last week. So I was able to speak at DePaul Law School last week, New York Law School, not NYU, but New York Law School. And this June, the New Jersey Society of CPAs are having their annual event, 700 CPAs. Doesn't that sound exciting? No, just kidding. But I will be speaking to them for about 2.5 hours on taxation of professional athletes. So it's really helped me. Boston Globe interviewed me. It's really been fun, and it never ceases to amaze me the things that come out of it. So that's been a tremendous thing to boon to my practice. And again, if I can leave you with a couple thoughts. Number one, don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it's you email any of the people in this conversation, a professor, your father, your mother, some sort of mentor that you've had in life. Number two, believe. Don't give up your dreams. And if that dream means ultimately leaving the accounting profession because you like something out, I don't know if Jessica like this, but that's fine. That hopefully not many, but you got to really love what you do. Because when you get older and you have a family and you have children and you can get up every day and go to work and love what you do, it doesn't get much better than that. I wanted to thank you guys, and I will be around for any questions that you may have. And now I turn it over to another one of our colleagues, Sylvia.
Okay, thank you very much. Continuing with the slides here, Jeff, please. Excellent. Well, hello to everyone. Just like Rita and Robert and Jeff have all said, thank you very much for taking time out of your day today. Appreciate you guys sitting in with us here and hearing a little bit about our careers, and hopefully we can all inspire you to move forward with your career in accounting because it really is an incredible career. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently the founder and president of a tax specialty firm, and I know you've heard Rita and Robert both mention that I'm a state and local tax expert, a state, local tax, and employment tax expert. I am a consultant, and in a few minutes I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I do, but basically my focus is consulting. I help companies, not only companies all over the country, but actually even international companies with state and local tax and employment tax issues. And the state and local tax area is one of the hottest areas in taxation right now. There is so much going on. I'm sure many of you have heard some of the recent developments about, the push to have internet tax, internet purchases subject to tax. I could talk day and night about this. This is a real focus area of mine. But when it comes to state and local taxes, I mean, there is so much happening. And as some of the other speakers have said, you're never bored. I am never bored with what I am doing. So in addition to being a firm owner, state and local tax consultant, I'm also an author and a speaker. I have written numerous articles on state and local tax issues. My articles have been published in the Journal of Accountancy, the Journal of Multi-State Taxation and Incentives, Bloomberg BNA's Multi-State Tax Report, the Journal of State Taxation. So I'm quite an avid writer. In addition to writing for some of the technical journals that I've written for, I also have a blog. I have my own blog, which is called the State and Local Tax Buzz. And relating back to the story that you were just talking about a minute ago, Robert, a few years ago, I didn't even know what a blog was. And now, just like Rita, I am an avid blogger. My blog, the State and Local Tax Buzz blog, has received something like 38,000 views. I'm just shocked at the number of people that come into the blog and look at my blog on a monthly basis. In addition to that, I'm also the internet tax blogger for a sales tax site that goes by the name of salestaxsupport.com, and I am writing and covering all of these developments, the Amazon laws, the federal internet tax legislation, and as a result of my work in speaking and in writing, I have been called upon numerous times to offer quotes. Recently, I was quoted in an article in Bloomberg Business Week specifically on this whole internet tax area. So I have become a specialist, not only a state and local tax consultant, but I'm really viewed as a specialist in some very specific niche areas. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, just kind of specializing and really, moving towards an area that you have a very strong interest in. Could you advance the slides, Jeff, please? Okay, thank you very much. Just very quickly, a little bit more about my background. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Texas at El Paso, yay, UTEP. I have a master's in professional accounting from the University of Texas at Austin, hook 'em horns, okay? So any fellow UT folks on the line today, hello, and like I said, hook 'em horns and UTEP. I have a specialization in taxation. My master's in professional accounting deals with a taxation specialization as one of the reasons why I ended up working in tax. Matter of fact, I don't know if I mentioned this a minute ago, but I have 20 years of tax experience, and of those 20 years of tax experience, 9 of those years have been in public accounting. I was with Grant Thornton, a national accounting firm, and also with Ernst & Young, a Big Four accounting firm. 3 of those years have been basically running my own firm, a tax specialty firm. Sometimes you'll hear the term a boutique specialty firm, and that's what I'm running now. And 8 of those years were actually in industry. And it's interesting because I got my start in public accounting back in the 1980s. So yes, again, I've been around for a while. I was originally with Arthur Young, which was part of the Big 8 at the time. And I know some of you are saying, Big 8, isn't it Big 4? Well, let me tell you, it used to be a Big 8, okay? It used to be, there was an Arthur Young and there was an Ernst & Winnie. I actually interned with Ernst & Winnie, went to work for Arthur Young, and then much later the 2 firms merged together, which is what we have today, Ernst & Young. But anyway, I started my career in public accounting back in the 1980s. I was in public accounting for a couple of years in tax, went to work in industry, was in industry for 8 years. After spending 8 years in industry, which I absolutely loved, did a lot of positive things to being a CPA tax professional in industry, I decided to go back to public accounting. And I will, even to this day, have people say to me, are you crazy? You were in industry and you went back to public accounting? And the answer is yes. I love working in public accounting. I love working in a boutique firm, running my own firm. I love the excitement of working on a variety of different clients in different industries, on different projects, and that's one of the things that I can say you really benefit from when you spend time in public accounting. And to touch on something that Rita said, if you go to one firm, every firm is different, okay? There are wonderful things about my experience at Ernst & Young, wonderful things about my experience at Grant Thornton, and so I can really relate to the differences between a Big Four firm and a national accounting firm. And if you're in a firm and you're saying to yourself, I don't know if this is really the right fit, don't write off public accounting. Public accounting is an incredible place to start your career, whether it's a small firm, a regional firm, a national accounting firm, a Big Four firm. There's whole wealth of experience and knowledge that you're going to obtain from being in a public accounting environment. So again, I've got sort of a wealth of my background encompasses so many different areas. I'm going to throw one more thing out to you here. I happen to be a working mother. Okay, and I know many of you probably say, hey, working mothers, a tough place to be, public accounting, but let me tell you, it really is not. It really lends itself to, depending on the firm now, it really lends itself to being able to have a career, a flexible work schedule in public accounting. I would argue that you are more likely to have a flexible work environment in a public accounting firm than you are in industry. That has been my experience. I would say that it's also much more amenable to, just using my own experience here, again, I'm a working mother. I actually was a stay-home mom for 5 years. I was out working for many years, again, corporate, public accounting, corporate, went back to public accounting, okay? Ended up adopting her first child. And my employer at that time was Ernst & Young, and I'll tell you, it was a wonderful boss that I worked for, really worked with me to, create the type of work schedule that I wanted to have, that I needed to have. It was an ideal scenario. And I'm sure, again, many of you, females in particular, who might be on the line today thinking, I'm not going to public accounting because I want to have a family someday. Let me tell you, it is really a great environment to be in. Ended up adopting 2 more children, so I have 3 children. So I ended up deciding to be a stay-at-home mom for 5 years just because small children. Actually ended up moving to France for a little while too, but that's a whole other story. To make a long story short, when I decided to come back to work, I made a decision to go back to public accounting with 3 small children because that is how much I really believe that is the perfect environment for a working mom. So if we could advance the slide, Jeff. Okay, thank you very much. So let me talk a little bit about what I do as a tax accountant versus what people think I do when I tell them that I'm a CPA. Once again, I am a state and local tax and employment tax specialist. I'm a consultant. I advise companies on the state and local tax rules. Basically, I'm dealing with entities. I don't really deal a lot with the individual side of, I don't really have individual type clients, should I say. My clients are corporations, partnerships, LLCs, legal entities, and I advise them on if they're going into a new state, do they have, there's a term that you might have heard, nexus. Do they have a connection to that state? Are they required to be filing in that state? And they're required to be collecting sales tax from customers that they sell to in the state. Again, this is a very, very hot area. Everything that I do is really dealing with the tax law, analyzing the law, interpreting the law, advising my clients on how the law applies to their particular situation. I don't audit. I don't perform a test work. I don't prepare tax returns. As a matter of fact, a minute ago when we jumped on the line, Jeff made a comment to Robert and I about, thank you for taking time out of your busy tax season schedule. And I said, I am not really affected by tax season because, again, I don't really do your traditional type of tax work where I'm filing returns. I'm advising clients, so I'm really not impacted by your typical tax return deadline. And believe it or not, and you're going to laugh, I'm a CPA, but I'm not a numbers person. And I tell people this all the time. I do not consider myself a numbers person. I really consider myself more of a legal person. And really what I do is much more lawyerly, oh gosh, I said that correctly. It's a hard word to say. Like I said, I spend most of my time, again, analyzing the law, advising my clients on the law, dealing with the law, the writing that I do, the technical writing that I do, the blogging that I do, the presentations that I do are always really based on, again, interpreting the law. Giving that information back to my clients and to my readers as to what it is that they need to understand. Most importantly, I really feel like I'm a trusted business advisor. I really feel that being a CPA, okay, there's the credibility that comes with being a CPA. And let me emphasize what Robert said a minute ago. Get the CPA exam out of the way. Get that certification. I did that early in my career. I think I obtained my CPA. I passed the exam in about my second or third year as a professional, and I'm so glad that I did that early on. But get that out of the way, and it just is the level of credibility that comes, being able to say, hey, I'm a CPA, and having your clients know that you have gone through some strenuous education and some testing to be able to call yourself that and be viewed as a trusted business advisor. So once again, what I do, very interesting, I really do consider myself as someone who does not have a quote traditional CPA type job. I'm a consultant. What I do is really more very loyally. Touching on this point here, as Jeff said early in the presentation, being an accountant is a great career. There is such a demand for you folks. There's such a demand for individuals with an accounting background. You probably have heard a lot of the stories. It's not the same situation on the legal side. Law schools are really having a tough time right now placing their graduates. Some law schools are revising their success criteria, their success rates. They'll talk about, a certain percentage of our graduates get jobs. They're revising those numbers because they're having to be more truthful about the fact that, you go in there and you spend a lot of money, you get a legal degree, you don't always come out of there with a job. It's not the same thing. But the accountants are in demand. And again, what I am doing is very much the same thing that my legal counterparts are doing. As a matter of fact, there's very little distinction between what they can do. I say very little distinction. If you had a lawyer on the line, they'd say there's a big distinction. But the main distinction, let me word it differently. The main distinction is I cannot go into a courtroom and represent a client in a court setting, okay? Anything up to, let's say I'm working with a client, and the client is being audited, okay? A typical scenario, very typical scenario of the type of work that I do. I'm working with a client, they're being audited by a state for failure, let's say, failure to file sales tax returns, just as an example. Within what we call the Department of Revenue, the state taxing agency, there are certain levels, okay, that a taxpayer's argument can be presented to. Okay, it can go up to a specific level in what we call the administrative hearing level. I can represent my clients all the way up to the highest administrative level within the State Department of Revenue, State Department of Taxation. I can represent them in the audit. I can represent them, again, in an administrative hearing. But if it gets to the point where it becomes a true legal suit type situation and the state is suing the client or the client is suing the state, then at that point in time I do have to turn the work over to an actual state attorney, state tax law attorney. But for the most part, I am really doing a lot of the same work that a lot of my legal counterparts are doing. Cannot emphasize, specialization once again, finding a niche, finding something that you love doing. Let me step back here for a minute and we'll talk just a little bit about how I ended up where I ended up. I mentioned early on that I started my career in public accounting. I've always loved to write. Writing has always been a huge passion of mine from early on, from college, graduate school. And when I started in public accounting, folks, luckily I had some, wonderful folks that I was working for that recognized that this is somebody who really has a knack analyzing the law and writing. And so from very early on in my career, I was involved in writing, technical memorandums, writing state and local tax alerts, just being asked time and time again to get involved in the writing aspect of what I was doing. very early on in my public accounting at PrietoDion back in the 80s, I had a knack for working on corporate clients. So very early on, I started working in the corporate environment. Never really got much involved with 1040 work, individual work. Again, it's not a specialty of mine, never has been. But corporate work was something that I started doing very, very early on, really pretty much from day one. In public accounting back in the 1980s, much unlike today, at least in many firms, back in the 1980s, you pretty much came in and you were in a pool and you worked on a variety of different tax type projects, okay? I tended to specialize in the corporate environment, but you didn't really have specialties like you have today. You didn't have an international tax practice. You didn't have, this was in the big four, used to be the big eight. You didn't really have a state and local tax practice, et cetera. And over time, what started happening is specific specialty areas started evolving, and the public accounting firms started realizing that, well, you know, we really need to start focusing our individuals in, you know, particular areas because the law is evolving, that the business environment is evolving, the challenges that our clients are dealing with is evolving. And so I ended up in the corporate environment, ended up starting to do some work in the state and local tax world, and you know, perfect combination there, corporations doing business in other states, and just over time, I started kind of moving more and more towards the state and local tax world, and that is where my specialty is once again. So this is, you know, I've evolved. I've always loved writing. I've always had a knack for interpreting the law, writing about the law, and it's just the perfect combination. And just like these other folks that said, I love what I do. I say this all the time. I tell people this all the time. I love what I do. I don't want to do anything else. I do not want to do anything else at all. This is what I want to do. So I love what I'm doing. I love what I've been doing for the last 20 years. You know, I love where my career is today. I feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm still learning today. With all that I know, I am still learning, and I love learning, and you will always be learning, and you will always be challenged. So once again, fantastic career choice, and I really, you know, commend everyone for moving forward with a career in accounting. So Jeff, next slide. I think that might be it.
All right.
One more slide. Okay, same thing. I'm going to just throw this out. Any questions, please feel free to contact me. Yeah, just like these other folks, I'm on Twitter, very active on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, I blog, etc. Great place to be, love it. So please do not hesitate to contact me outside of the webinar today if you have any questions. Thank you, Jeff.
Sylvia, thank you. And as we kind of just sort of get past the stories of everyone's careers, I want you, Sylvia and Robert and Rita, don't go too far away, because what I really like to do is to use the next few minutes to do two things. One, talk about all these wonderful firms in the mid-market that are available, and then also answer a lot of the questions that we've gotten. But it certainly helps to hear your stories to kind of frame the conversation. But we started out with this slide. Public accounting is really the focus of today, and it's easy if you're in a large international firm. Everyone's probably heard of you and knows the wonderful benefits of starting. A lot of the presenters today started in these firms. But we want to also look, I think, today and spend a little time talking about the mid-market firms, the regional and local firms, some of the great benefits of starting a career there that you just might not be aware of. So our goal, whether it's Meet the Firms Week or CollegeFrog or just us personally as presenters, is for you to have an awareness of the options. And it's important because, just to give you a little bit of background about me, my colleagues and I founded CollegeFrog in 2011, but I'm not a CPA. My background is in recruiting, so I used to work for corporations that hired interns and college students, and learned a lot about what it's like to be a college student looking for a job, and sort of you know, why I'm involved in this is to help college students make very good decisions about your next step. When we built CollegeFrog, we've probably spoken with 300 heads of accounting firms and recruiters and HR leaders, human resources that is, and probably 200 plus professors who are, you know, department chairs of accounting at some of your schools, and two major things have come up from that. One is they want you to be aware of all the options that are available, and they're not sure that the students really are aware of all the options. So I want to spend a few minutes telling you about one option that is, I think, very attractive for a lot of students, And so that was my quick sidebar. But where I was heading a second ago is making a good decision is really important. Because, and the more experience you can have through things like internships, even if you can't get an internship, just going and visiting the firm and getting on site, the more you can experience these opportunities, the more you're going to understand what the right fit is for you. Because everybody's different. The Big Four is very different from working in a mid-sized firm. Even within mid-sized firms, there are large mid-sized firms that are in large cities, and there are small, more rural, local firms that have unique advantages. Here's the reason why it's important. Because you don't want to make a poor decision if possible. You want to avoid going down the wrong path that could lead to dissatisfaction. There are so many great options, I think, in public accounting. So that's why we want to bring this together. And so luckily Robert made one point that I wanted to bring up, which is no matter what, get your required credit hours and do pass the CPA exam if you think that you're going to go down this path. We can certainly have Robert or Sylvia or Rita kind of talk a little more about that. But Robert did mention that, and I won't belabor that point. How do you decide? We're not necessarily making making a sales pitch for mid-sized firms, but I want you to know there's probably 5,000 firms out there in the mid-market that hire college students and interns on a yearly basis. And that's a wonderful opportunity for everybody on the call. So it's important to think about the types of environments that you do well in. Do you thrive in a cutthroat, intense environment? Do you like being in more of a kind of a balanced atmosphere? There's the things to think about. Obviously your goals, work-life balance. Do you like travel? Is travel something you're comfortable with? You're not comfortable with? Do you want to live in a big city? Do you want to live out in suburbia? Of course, all of these things are things that we don't know the answers to. Only you do. But what we wanted to show you is questions that would help you to ask yourself to identify maybe where you'd want to go. I'll stop right there. And my next slide is going to be actually showing some benefits of mid-sized firms. But from those of you who are CPAs on the call, anything stand out just as I'm going through this about helping somebody make a decision? One, about just finding out what the options are out there, and two, helping people kind of think through the questions of what types of firms to be in. Any of this stuff kind of resonating with you, Robert, or Rita, or Sylvia?
Sure.
I've got a couple of thoughts. Okay. Well, Robert, sorry.
Go ahead, Rita.
I'll just throw mine out real quickly. I'd say that when it comes to the bigger size firms versus the more regional, smaller size firms, I would say, and this may be just my experience, my observation, is that when you're in a bigger firm, you're going to be more likely and even expected to really kind of specialize in a niche. And it's just the nature, and especially in the Big Four firms, where it really is segregated, you really are working in a particular area. When you're working in a very smaller firm, even national firm, regional firm, you have more of an opportunity, I'd say, to be sort of wear many hats and work in a variety of different areas. It's just more the nature of the way things work in a smaller environment. Being more of a kind of a generalist, more of a general business type person, general, CPA. So that's just kind of one of the observations I want to throw out there.
Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, I agree with that. I started out at back in the day, it was Deloitte Haskins and Sells, then known as Deloitte & Touche. So I like Rita. I think Sylvia mentioned she started out with one of the, in those days, the Big Four, now Big 8, now known as the Big Four. And I think that you should try at the beginning to be a generalist and get a good background, whether it be in tax or audit. If you're in tax, whether it be state, local, or international, try to get a little bit of background in everything. Like I said, get the exam out of the way while all this stuff is fresh in your mind. You don't have as much in terms of working responsibilities. I'd even encourage you to take an exam, right out of school, take a review course, take it over the summer. If those of you that are not going to start working to the fall, I would definitely encourage you doing that. And don't be afraid to try different things within the firm that you're at or going to be at in different areas. Don't get pigeonholed as an expert. You're too young to be in one area. You want to try to get a background. And I think you can't be afraid to say, well, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm going to try something else. I thought I would like doing this, but I don't. I want to try something else. I'm not saying every day you go and try a new thing. But I think it's excellent points by everybody that you want to go out there, you want to try, don't be afraid to ask questions. Whether all the people on this panel are more than happy to answer questions via email, or maybe set up a telephone appointment or whatever. But people, when I was back in the day when I was your age, I had somebody that was mentored to me, and he helped me. When I had worked with Deloitte as an intern. Even though I interviewed with the other firms, I decided to go work for Deloitte, and I know what I made back then, and I know what firms pay now. So it's a while back. It's probably 2 or 3 times what I started out with back in the day. But I wish all of you the best, and good luck with doing it, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, thanks for the comments.
And Jeff, also in just
please.
A little bit, this is Rita. One thing I wanted to stress with the students, especially looking at mid-sized firms, but all firms and the accounting profession, there is such opportunity right now because of one word, and that's succession. Young people, as you're entering the firm, there is opportunity for you because of the generational issues. The baby boomers, I think like 17,000 a day or something like that, are turning 65 for the next 12 years. I mean, it's big numbers. Will be retiring, and accounting firms, public accounting firms, are looking for good people. And you're in the perfect spot. Very few professions right now, as Sylvia mentioned, really have that opportunity, and they want you. They want good people, bright, young, ambitious people to fill those roles in public accounting firms. So you're in a good spot, and just remember that, succession. There's going to be room to advance in your career. Jeff?
What a great piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah. I say we're all in that boomer category, Rita.
Yes, yes, we are.
So
a little bit more about the mid-sized firms, since as we'll go down that path, and I want you guys to stay close to the phone and offer any insights as well. But we actually had a presentation last year called Life in a Mid-Sized Firm, but the presenter couldn't make it, and we wanted to keep the theme alive because it was one of our most popular sessions. So this actually was a perfect session to kind of incorporate that in. That session is actually available on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and just look for that word CollegeFrog Get Hired, you can see all of our recent webinar sessions. I want to get out of the way and let you guys talk, but everyone can read here on some of the benefits of some of these smaller firms. I love the advice of being a generalist. Consider the fact that succession planning is going on right now, which puts everybody in a great position, no matter what kind of firm you want to work in. But Robert or Rita, Sylvia, of these benefits, I don't need to read them so everybody else can, but any of them stick out to you as a kind of a prime benefit that catches your attention of a smaller firm over a larger firm?
Yeah, I think just a little quickly, and this is exactly what I mentioned a minute ago, Jeff, where I said that my observation is certainly that with a smaller mid-sized firm, for example, you're going to have more of an opportunity to really get involved in a lot of different things. Like everything that you've said there, all the points 1 through 7, I would agree with all of them. I would say those are huge benefits to considering a mid-sized firm.
I might add to that, Jeff. In a mid-sized firm, mid-sized and smaller, and again, mid-sized firms, it's kind of all over the board. It can be several hundred down to...
that is right.
I like to say, when I tell people about my clients are CPA firms. My smallest one has 5 people. My largest one has nearly 400. So you can see, and very similar issues inside those firms. But in a firm like that, in that range, that's a very broad range, not only do the partners will know your name, but the firm in general asks for your feedback. They will listen. All of my clients make the opportunity for their people to give feedback and express their opinion. And I assume that is satisfying to the young people. I'm not in that category, but in the old days in CPA firms, you worked pretty hard and you didn't have a lot of say. Things have changed so much, and firms really go all out to make you feel welcome, comfortable, and to help you reach your career goals.
Well, what you're talking about there is a quality of life consideration. I mean, to have a firm that solicits feedback. What I hear you saying is that it wants to help enable career growth. Rather than you being on your own, you have a firm who has a stake in your success.
They don't want to lose you. They want you to stay with the firm.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm going to throw a question out here to Rita, and that is, Rita, in your experience working with these many CPA firm clients of yours, what's your take on what they are doing from a work-life balance, in particular for working mothers? Do you see that really, firms really trying to make that work for their female professionals?
You know, Sylvia, that's an excellent question and very timely, because this year especially, and it sort of started happening in last year some, but again, this need, we have to have enough people to fill the spots of the retiring people in CPA firms. And in order to do that, as most of you know, colleges, most of the college graduates in accounting, the biggest percent, and Jeff, you probably have the stats, are female. And CPA firms for years have hired lots of females, but they lose them when they want to have a family. And I see firms all over the country really embracing women's initiatives. And they used to say, oh, why do we have to have special stuff for women? And, you know, and I don't believe in doing special stuff for women. It is really a generational issue, because the young men want flexibility too. The young father today is much more involved in raising children than my father was or my husband was. It's a generational issue, and young people, young families need flexibility, and that's why these initiatives are growing and expanding. And the best firms out there, they have women's initiatives and are focusing on more diversity in the CPA profession. So for the young people, when you're interviewing, ask those questions. Do you have a women's initiative? Is there someone here that can help mentor me through those tough times when I have the challenging family issues, so I don't have to leave public accounting?
That's great.
Right, exactly.
You know
I got one point. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. I was going to throw one more point out. I know we're getting
Please do. No, go ahead, Sylvia.
Rita brings up all these wonderful points, and it made me think of another wonderful point and a bit of advice here to our participants. But you're talking about, you know, again, women's initiatives, diversity initiatives. I'd say one of the best. I happen to be a minority. I happen to be a Latina. And, you know, certainly you tend to feel like a minority within this profession. And so one thing I would say is to all of you who are embarking on your careers, find a good mentor. Find, you know, you will find many people in your career when you go to work really wanting to mentor and help you and just to help you learn and progress. And, you know, I think finding a mentor is just a wonderful, just a bit of advice, a really good advice to throw out today.
It's great advice. You're absolutely right. Here's what I thought we would do. We have a few questions that I wanted to answer, but we are bumping up against the end of the hour. So here's what we'll do. I'll stay on and answer questions. We'll do kind of a rapid fire question and answer. If our presenters are okay holding over maybe 5 or so minutes after the call just to go through the questions, we would greatly appreciate it. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And callers, if anyone needs to jump off, totally understand that. If you'd like to wait and hear the rest of the questions, we'd love to have you. So we're going to go. You're going to go quickly, but make sure we get them asked. So one of our students is asking if any of the CPAs at practices, so Rita or Robert, are looking for interns at your firms. You hire interns, and if the answer is maybe a broader answer, you know, I'll take the broader resource of how to find internships. But are either of you hiring interns at your firms at this point?
I will say that I will definitely be hiring interns in the future.
Great.
Okay, and Jeff, the firm that I'm at, a regional firm in New Jersey, we do hire interns a little bit in the summer, but for a lot of kids during the school year, you know, next tax season, we probably hire 4 or 5 a year, of which we did for 2013, and I would say the majority of those result in full-time employment, and we have not made any decisions. Obviously, we'll start interviewing over the summer for positions for 2014.
And from my experience, Jeff, of course, I'm practicing solo. I don't have a public accounting firm, but my clients, from my client base and other CPAs that I talk to around the country, yes, they're hiring interns. Many firms only hire from their own intern pool because a lot of good students, I mean, they go into intern, and if you go to a college campus and think you're going to get a new grad, the top students are already gone. Firms are making offers in your junior year sometimes. If you intern there when you're a junior, you might get an offer, even though if you're in a 5-year program, you still have a ways to go until you graduate. So yes, seek out those intern positions, and Jeff can give you some heads up, good advice, I guess, on where to find them.
Just real quick, CollegeFrog has nearly 300 firms around the country that hire interns and entry level. And I'll even tell you some of our competition that you should be looking at. Intern Match is a website that may have some. Aftercollege.com and Indeed.com are all really great websites. Of course, if you have a profile on CollegeFrog, those employers can find you as well. All right, cool. Another caller wants to know, are there any books or learning programs that helped you gain knowledge in the accounting industry? And the student asked this because he's currently looking for an internship, not having a great deal of luck finding one, but he wants to be in really good position to, so that when he starts at a firm or an internship, he has the knowledge and the resources to be effective. So any good accounting-related books or programs that anyone would recommend?
Jeff, I can offer a reading list that I give out all the time if the students would like to email me, and it's RitaKeller.com, rkeller@ritakeller.com. I don't think my contact information was on the slide, but you can Google me and find out how to reach me. But the #1 book that I recommend for every person entering a public accounting firm, and all of my clients hand it out to the students as they enter, is True Professionalism by David Maister. M-A-I-S-T-E-R. That's the #1, and many, many good books to read, but read True Professionalism. Robert or Sylvia?
I would say I think I concur with Rita on that recommendation, but I also would think that, with the advent of social media and all the internet, there's a lot of things that you can read out there. But the #1 thing is to go into an interview with a good attitude. Easy for me to say, but I was an intern way back in the day at Deloitte, and way back in the day, and I did spend 2 years interning there, and it was such a long time ago that the Final Four was in 1985. The Final Four, there was 3 Big East teams. It was in Lexington, Kentucky, but and I had to come back early from that to go to work at Deloitte. Working there as I was going to school. But I think the attitude is the most important thing. People can teach you the technical know-how or whatnot, but if you go in with a great attitude and believing that you're going to do things right and asking questions and wanting to learn, attitude is huge in my mind.
Huh.
I agree.
That's a heck of a point too, Robert. I mean, that's a little secret behind the scenes or behind the curtain of interviewing, is that your attitude and how you just communicate and sort of soft skills go a long, long way. Great book recommendation, Rita. Anybody having so we have a question here. Does anyone have an experience with governmental accounting? Any thoughts on the career opportunities within the government? Certainly seems to me like that's a very strong career path, and that they're hiring. But anybody have any quick first-hand knowledge or opinions on that?
I can throw something out there. As you know, I specialize in state and local and employment tax, but on the state and local tax side, very common, somewhat common, should I say, for firms to hire former Department of Revenue, Department of Taxation professionals and bring them into the public environment as consultants. Very typical. You will find someone who was formerly an auditor with the California Franchise Tax Board or the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. There's a certain skill set that the individuals who have been on the audit side, have actually been with the state government, bring to the table. And it is one path to becoming a state and local tax consultant. One path is actually starting up on the government side in a, again, Department of Revenue, Department of Taxation, and getting a few years of experience in that environment makes you very marketable to move into an accounting firm as a state and local tax specialist.
Great point. Let's see. Rita, your blog site, can you give that one more time? I just had a student who wanted to get that one more time. Your blog site and email address, please.
www.ritakeller.com/blog. And the website is ritakeller.com. And if you just Google Rita Keller, you'll find me.
Great, great, great. Thank you guys so much. All right, we're going to do one more question if that's okay. I know you got to get back to work. I'm going through so a lot of great questions. Okay, so let me ask this question. I may have to rephrase it, but first of all, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this webinar. Would you recommend beginning at the public accounting level and then transitioning into one of the other sectors, or does it matter what sector you start in? For example, I have an opportunity to work at an international corporation to sort of go in-house right out of college, but I'm hesitant to accept it because I'm not completely sure if it would benefit me to start in public accounting and then switch to corporate accounting. Any thoughts from you guys on that?
I definitely have some thoughts there, but I'll let the other folks answer.
That's putting you on the spot.
I think that you got to do what's best, what you believe is best for yourself. I would encourage you to interview with the big six, the big four, whatever they're called, and some of the smaller firms, and if opportunity presents itself, to consider it. But if right now your path is somewhat limited, and if you go to, one of those private firms, that's fine. But if that's the path that's looking best for you right now, you can consider it. But I would encourage you to go at the firms. But I wouldn't be disappointed if you wind up at a small private type thing. You could always get back the other way. Maybe easier to go from public to private. But if that's the path you have and you're going to make the best of it, you're going to go at it 100%. That's what you got to go with.
Right.
I think that's good advice.
I'll throw my quick thought out on there.
Please.
I think there's positives and negatives to moving in both directions, starting in industry and going public, moving to industry. Some would say that you would have an easier time transitioning, starting off in public accounting and transitioning into industry, all right? Just because obtaining that public accounting experience, an employer on the corporate side knows that you're bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience. You've worked with different clients. You've potentially worked in different industries. You've seen a lot of things. And I think in general, some might say that it's a better decision to start in corporate and then move to industry as opposed to the other way. On the other hand, there's just being in industry, you're still going to get, depending on where you end up, still going to have access to a wealth of information and knowledge. I mean, it still can be a very, engaging and challenging environment. I just think in general that given the two choices, I would advise someone to start in public and then move into industry, but not that you can't do and be successful making a move the other way.
And I agree with that. I agree with Sylvia and with Robert.
You got one more? You got time for one more?
Yep, one more.
All right. We just had before we wrap this up, we had so many great questions and so many great stories. We got to do this again next fall, you guys. This is always such a strong panel, and I love hearing these stories. Okay, so this is one that's maybe a little bit of a stretch for you guys because I don't think this is your career path. But how do y'all? So, like a Southerner like me here, how do y'all feel about a career path in forensic accounting? Who would be the best firms to try and start with? Would having some criminal justice knowledge help that with my career path? If anybody has any strong opinions one way or the other, throw them out there. If not, I can probably help this person offline.
I can help with that. The firm that I'm at has a gentleman that I've been with this firm 2.5 years. He joined after that. He's a partner, and he's done a lot of work in the forensic area. So I don't know much about it, but we were able to pitch one of the top matrimonial firms in the state, and we brought him with us, and hopefully they're going to start doing some work together on lifestyle analysis on situations regarding family law. So I think it's a hot area. It's a strong area. I don't know if I would start out there, but if you got a little bit of background, again, I strongly believe that after a couple of years, you want to go to a niche and be a specialist. That's one of, state and local is a hot area, family law a very hot area.
Yeah.
I agree that it's a hot area. I don't know whether I'd begin there, but I'd be happy to put the person who asked that question, if they get in touch with me by email, I'd be happy to let them speak to the partner that handles that area in our firm.
Right.
That's great.
Great.
I'll show you this last slide and kind of close things up. We had one question says that what CPA material would you recommend? Well, you're in luck. One of our presentations for the person that asked that question is the CPA exam, which will be on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. Just as you see here, tomorrow we're going to have life as an internal auditor, and so come back to the session tomorrow and ask more great questions, because this has been a fantastic session. On Wednesday, it's called Starting Strong. You are not going to want to miss this. It's from Sandra Wiley at Boomer Consulting, who speaks to firms and employees all around the country about, and this topic will be about, what are the 5 things you can do to begin your career and make the biggest impact possible. There are things you can do to really start strong. Obviously, the CPA exam, and then on Friday will be using social media to build your personal brand. This is specifically for accounting majors, so you want to be a part of that. A couple of highlights. I think this is such an amazing career path for personal growth. It's an amazing opportunity to get specialized, but make sure that you start out as a generalist and to get exposed to a lot of different types of work. If you try different things, you'll eventually find things that you're passionate about. Make sure you think about getting the exam out of the way. Ask questions. You have people who, and we will follow up with everyone's contact information, including my own, and we encourage you to keep in touch with us. We are thrilled with the interest level of this session, and as, I guess we could leave at one point. You're in a great position with succession planning and the industry sort of turning over the next few years. So make sure you get out there, and if you ever need help finding jobs, that's why CollegeFrog exists. So we'll wrap it up there. I just want to say thanks to Rita, Robert, and Sylvia. You guys are awesome, and for staying late today, I can't thank you enough. You gave us about 2 hours of your time today, and it means a great deal. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Jeff. Good luck to everyone.
Bye, everybody.
All the best.
Bye-bye.